It's a very strong
Hard
statement.
and strong statement. I
Very
agree.
strong statement. You're referring to casting couch?
Yes.
Yeah.
On the spot, somebody called us saying you're not shooting tomorrow.
That's very common. The only thing that was guiding me was that I do not want to die with regrets. Let me just burst this myth. You don't make money as a performing artist in the initial few years. After 1.5 months, the ad got released and I started getting calls. Hey, you worked with Amitabh Bachchan. Consider this, you're auditioning for at least 5 to 6 things every single day. That would culminate into like 150 auditions. And out of that, you may not even crack one.
Unless you work hard, unless you put in the blood, sweat and tears, you don't understand what is smart work.
People want to follow their passion, but they don't understand that it doesn't come easy.
You are one influencer that I know who has gone to a business coach. I'm sure something amazing came out of it.
It's simple. If you want to reach out to people, you need to be present where people are. And people are online. People are on their screens every day. You should be a yoga teacher. I said, hello? Yoga teacher? Like market researcher, wedding choreographer, performing artist, actor, yoga teacher doesn't resonate.
When did you have time for that?
I'm single. I have a lot of time. Sometimes somebody would comment something very rude and very demeaning. You are like, hey, I'm just here to teach yoga. What's wrong with you? Why would you pull me down? Most people stop because they think, oh, nothing is working out. I'm going to just give up. It's fine. You probably will be this close to a breakthrough, but don't stop.
Today we have a very fluke podcast. It was not supposed to happen. We're here set up for another shoot with Shiny and Terence Lewis. All right. We are prepared for that and there were some delays. So we said, hey, Shiny, can I interview you? And she's like, sure, let's do it. And I'm telling you, the content that came out of it was brilliant. She quit a high-paying job. She ran after her passions. She learned so many things. She made mistakes. She grew. She went with the flow. But her life story is truly inspirational. I'm so glad that this happened. It was, complete fluke, but it happened and it inspired me. It inspired my team here. And anyone who is thinking of following their passion, I think this is a foundational podcast you should listen to because it not just gives you the mindset, but also the practical steps which Shiny has shared that can ensure that you don't burn out. So let's get into another Creative Genesis podcast with Shiny Narag. Hi Shiny, we're just doing this very impromptu interview with you.
Thank you, Ryan. Actually, it's my pleasure.
All right. So, you're many things. You've switched many careers and your current avatar is yoga teacher, yoga instructor.
Yes.
But tell us, what all you've done through the years and how you have become who you are today.
So I think it was all divine's plan. I wanted to be a brand manager for a telecom company because I've done marketing and communications management. I'm a science student and management graduate, but things did not turn out the way I wanted. So after my post-graduation, I first joined a market research company. So I was working as a market researcher and I was getting paid to ask questions.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, because we were designing questionnaires and studies. Back then, the data was collected manually through pen and paper. So you might remember that people used to knock on your doors to ask,
Like surveys.
your surveys and how happy you are using this and using that. So we used to design those surveys. We used to design all those questionnaires, how many samples, where all we will study. And then we will put that data together, analyze it and present it to the marketing heads and CEOs of various companies. Wow. So that was my job.
So literally that was your training for podcasting and now you are transitioning to podcaster, right? I mean, that's what we are doing right now. We've set up for an interview with a very famous person, which I'm not going to mention right now. But all the groundwork was done back then, which was all manual. And now you are actually becoming a podcaster and interviewer as well.
Like I said, it's divine's plan. So, going back to where I was working in a job, a 9-to-5 thing. I worked with some very good, renowned multinational companies like Airtel, ITC, Hero Honda, Pepsi, MNYL. They all were my clients. And we were just presenting to the CEOs and all the marketing heads, consumer insight heads, and that was my work. So I've traveled a lot of India courtesy my job, and I've interacted with a lot of people and understood their backends, how the assembly lines work, how the distribution works, how the customer interactions happen. So there's a lot of information that's coming across industries, but something in me was telling me there's more to life, and I can't be sitting in front of my laptop the entire day, and I need to do more, because कल को अगर मैं नहीं रही तो किसी को क्या पता चलेगा कि मैं बस एक क्यूबिकल में रह के ख़त्म हो गई थी. So I didn't want to live that life for the rest of my life. So I decided to quit my job, and I picked up dancing actually first, because that was my only hobby growing up.
And your sister is also quite
My sister is a professional choreographer and dancer, and we both love dancing.
And you're the older sister?
I am the elder one. Yeah.
Okay.
She's the younger one.
So you both picked it up at the same time?
No. My sister by profession is a software engineer.
Oh, okay. So both of y'all have left your corporate careers?
Yeah, we both left our corporate careers. We both did not want to, stick to a cubicle. We wanted to enjoy and celebrate our lives. So I decided to quit my job. And I literally, from the very next day, I was in my ballet shoes and leotard, and I was in my ballet class the very next morning. I left my job and I decided I want to train myself and become a dancer, a professional dancer. The only thing that was guiding me was that I do not want to die with regrets. कि मैंने ये कोशिश ही नहीं करी. I could have been a performing artist and I didn't even try. So I said, no, I will not let that happen. I will give it a fair shot. So I started dancing, training. I've done more than 200 live shows, which is...
Really?
Yes.
Live shows?
Live shows, 2.5 hour long live shows every single day.
Where?
So there's this place called Kingdom of Dreams in Gurgaon.
Okay.
They have a huge setup, and this was back in 2011 when I had left my job. So I used to work with the market research company called IMRB, Indian Market Research Bureau, but I thought no. So I was at that time training with a very famous choreographer called Ashley Lobo. He's my teacher and my mentor.
In Gurgaon?
In Delhi. So they were putting up this show. It's a
musical
musical show.
So you've known Lobos for quite a while then?
Yes, I do actually. I actually do know Lobos. And he lives here in Goa only.
Oh, yeah?
Ashley lives here itself. So yeah, Ashley's company was putting up this show called Jhumru, which was a dedication to Kishore Kumar. Now, they were looking for dancers, and I had just left my job and I wanted to train more and learn more and perform more and live my life. So I said, yes, I'm going to do this. So we used to perform every single day. And it was a 2.5 hour long musical show, which we have done, I've done for more than a year. So more than 200 shows I've performed live every single day. And I was learning aerial, I was learning harness. There were a lot of different kinds of dance forms and techniques and skills I was training myself in. So I have a lot of body training. And
wait, I just wanted to focus on the fact that you left a very stable career. I'm sure you were earning quite well, and you just all of a sudden left it and wanted to learn dance. That means you're paying fees, you are traveling, you're not earning anything, and that's something that many people are very afraid of doing, to completely transition to something that you're passionate about. Tell us about the mindset that you had. Tell us about some practical things also, like you had to save money, you had to ensure that your daily expenses are met, right? It's not just about, mindset, but it's also about the practical things that you put in place in order to do that.
Yeah, it's a very important question, Ryan, and most people miss this part. So thank you for asking this question. That is the real thing. That is the crux. People want to follow their passion and make that happen and do that pivot, but they don't understand that it doesn't come easy. What I did in my life, some good decisions that I took, I started investing very early in my life, because I was told from the very beginning, my mother is my first mentor, and she told me from the very beginning, you need to understand that money is energy. You can't just let it go. So I had a very disciplined structure to my money, and I actually invested, saved, and I'm not a person who would splurge extravagantly and just let go of it by spending and shopping unnecessarily. I don't do that. I was never that person. Thanks to my mom. So that investment, gave me the courage that even if I am not getting a paycheck every month from my company, which was a good amount, by the way, like you would have guessed, because I was in a stable job, I could let go of that. Yes, there was a fear that where is the next amount going to come in, but I can proudly say that I was very clear that I will make this happen somehow. Whether it gives me money in the small run, big run, no. But if I'm not following my heart, my energy is going to go down any which way. उससे तो फिर पैसा आने भी नहीं वाला है. So I ensured my energy stays high. My motive was clear. My intention was clear. And I just wanted to operate from a space of zero regrets.
And in practical terms, there are so many methods to invest. What was it? Was it SIPs, mutual funds, or was it?
I simply put money in mutual funds. Back then, I had not much understanding about that. I did not even know many things, because I'm talking about almost like 15 years ago, 15 years ago. So there was not so much of financial, education available.
So the simple thing you did is put it in mutual funds.
I just had a regular
SIP.
practice to put money, every year in some things, so that I can keep a cushion for myself, which allowed me to actually do a lot more things, and which gave me the courage to take a decision which is not very easy for most of them.
Yeah.
And I can proudly say I never asked my father for a single penny.
Even after you quit your job?
Even after I quit my job.
Were you living with your parents back then?
I was living with my parents back then, but I was contributing, not asking. I can say that, because I know that my father has done enough, more than enough for us, and I never wanted to go back and ask him for a single penny. So yeah, then I switched penny roles actually, because
so from dancer
from dancers to, because I was figuring
out.
Did
you make money in dancing? Yes.
No.
No, you didn't make any
no.
money.
Because I was training parallelly, so a lot of my money was going in my classes, training.
Okay, so you did earn, but you had to spend all that.
I had to spend all that. So as a dancer, let me just burst this myth. You don't make money as a performing artist in the initial few years.
Few years, huh?
I'm telling you the truth. It doesn't happen, because whatever you're earning, you're either putting it back, in the whole thing, so that you can upgrade your skills, upgrade the way you look, upgrade your network and everything. So you're not making any money as a performing artist in the beginning at all. Unless and until you've reached a stage where people know you, and then they call you because you're a known person in the industry, then it's the time actually your whole efforts multiply and they exponentially spike, because that's the point where people know, this person is something I want. So you become almost like a mini celebrity, and that's where you start to get the returns out of it. But initial few years, all these people, performing artists, are excellent money managers. I'm telling you this, because they know how to survive with very little amount. And if they're not doing it this way, they would have been out of the game very soon. So I did not rely on this part. Dance was not paying us much, so I picked up wedding choreographies. So I was doing, Delhi has a nice culture of Sangeet and this fancy stuff. And I knew dancing and I knew how to teach dance. So I was choreographing for weddings in Delhi.
How many months or years between you quitting your job and then you becoming a wedding choreographer?
Immediately, actually. As soon as I quit my job and I knew I wanted to dance more, I just told all my friends, all my colleagues.
Okay, so you were a dancer before that?
I was not, as a hobby, I was always dancing.
Yeah.
So I had a flair, but I was not trained in dance. So there are two different things. I can teach you dance, but if I was to perform it at an international level, I would need a lot of training. I started training after my office, like after I left my job. But उतना मुझे आता था. That much I
I
knew
mean, you
कि
don't
मैं
need to be
सिखा
that
सकती
great to
हूँ.
be a wedding choreographer.
हाँ, you don't need
Yeah.
to be technical to be a wedding
Right.
choreographer. I had musicality, I had a flair, I had an understanding of how it works in a group, or how to manage a family when it comes to weddings. So that I started immediately because I also wanted some money coming in. So that was important. So initially people did not know us. Both me and my sister were like, let's do this. And it took us a while to actually get some clients and do some more good projects. We actually did some very good projects also. My sister also travels internationally to teach and everything because it's been a strong base. So this was one thing. And I also continued working with my ex-company, my market research company, as a freelancer consultant.
Yeah.
So sometimes they would call me and say, hey, we have a very important presentation for IDEA or Airtel. Can you come in and then do this? And I was like, why not? Sure. So there have been days when I literally am flying to, let's say, Bangalore or Mumbai to make a presentation, and I just fly back, come to Delhi and rush into my show to perform live. And after I finish my show, I would go to my clients' house to teach them wedding choreography. So I was playing 3 different roles on this very same day. So in the morning I'm a market researcher, in the afternoon I'm a performer, in the evening I'm a choreographer. So I was juggling between multiple roles.
Hectic.
Very hectic.
That's the
Very
hustle.
hectic. Yeah, that was the hustle. And I was still figuring out, can I do more? Because back then I knew I have left my job. It's not going to work out as simply as I thought it would. And I wanted to, give it my best. So I did many things. I worked as an anchor, as a MC.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I worked as a travel host for a travel show as well.
Seriously? And
I'm not kidding.
Wow. So you've done television as well?
I haven't done television.
What kind of show was it?
So this was a pilot show that we were pitching for an Asian channel.
Okay.
So they said, we are looking for a person who loves traveling, and thanks to my market research job, I have traveled entire India mostly with that. So I was like, yeah, I love traveling, and I was never afraid of the discomforts that come along with it. In fact, I'm one of the single solo female travelers who's been traveling since 2008. And I've never traveled in a group. So till today, whenever I just decide, I just pack my bags and leave. So they were asking me more about my travel experiences. I shared everything with them. And they said, okay, we'd like to have you on board and let's shoot a pilot. So my first ever shot, like a production with a production, was for 21 days, non-stop. So I was shooting and traveling for 21 days, and that was my first experience with facing the camera, being in front of camera, understanding how it functions, understanding lights, audio. There was so much information, and I realized that was amazing. And in my head, I'm thinking, I'm so happy I had left my job. I could not have experienced this life anyway. If I was sitting in front of my laptop, ये होता ही नहीं, possible ही नहीं होता. So this happened, and then I just kept saying yes, basically, to whatever was coming my way.
And was this a paid gig?
No.
Most of them are not,
No.
right?
Travel?
Most of them
no,
are not.
they were putting a pilot together, like
Yes.
a small project together. I got to travel for 21 days. I was happy, and I got to learn while I was on the go. My idea was, okay, karke dekhte. I may like it, I may not like it. So I'm not a person who would decide before doing things. I would do the thing and then decide, okay, whether this is something I would repeat or not. Because I keep saying yes to all new experiences. Something new, yes. Whatever the outcome may be, I don't care. So I'm very clear that unless I don't put myself in it, how will I know? And I can't take someone else's opinion or their thought as a final verdict. मुझे जवाब चाहिए. Maybe somebody say it's a very difficult job, but I may love it. So I'll stick to what I feel.
The travel show happened,
Yeah,
right?
the travel show happened, and
Yeah, I guess it never materialized into a
yeah,
show.
no, it never mattered. How did you know that?
Because you said pilot and then
Pilot,
you
it did
didn't
not
say much about
materialize.
that.
Yeah, it did not materialize, but I was happy with the fact that
You learnt a lot.
I learned a lot.
You got to
And I
be
got
exposed to
to
the camera,
camera.
how to speak, and
Yeah.
I'm sure they also give you tips on do this, do that. And
Not much.
No, so it was all you.
Not much.
So it was inbuilt, like.
It was, no, I was failing.
But there was a director.
There was a director. I was learning, failing, and I'm happy with that process. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, fail 1,000 times. I think failure are the best teachers. The only way you will learn is by failing. So don't be afraid of failing at all. Never. But so this happened and I was dancing. I got picked up as a performer by one of my choreographers. His name is Gilles. He's a French guy, and he said, I'm putting a show together called What is Dance, and I want you to come and be a part of the show, perform with us. I said, okay. So he had a person who was a narrator in the show, was putting What is Dance. He had poetry and everything included in it. So I met this person. His name is Pranav Barara, and he is a director, actor, writer who was working in Delhi. And he said, Shiny, I think you should come and attend an acting workshop. I said, I don't want to be an actor. Why would I do that? I'm happy being a dancer. I enjoy this stage, this performance, this expansiveness. He said, no, I'm telling you, you will really like it. Just come. I said, but I don't want to be an actor. Why should I attend this? Why should I even waste my time here? He said, you have to just trust me and come. He forced me, literally, to come and show up for an acting workshop. I went, and after the workshop, I came out of the studio and I was sitting on the stairs, and I remember I was crying. I was crying, endlessly crying. So he came, he said, what happened? I said, Pranav, I wish I had done this before.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. I said, this was so relieving, so liberating. I said, I wish I had picked up, acting as a career from day one. And probably this was the missing link I had. And I could, as a dancer, I could express. But with acting, you can express a lot more. Your voice, your face, your body, your emotions, your thoughts, everything comes into place. And it's a very challenging profession. Unlike what we believe it is, it's very challenging.
Even in that, like, you train, you pay, you don't get paid gigs.
Same.
The competition is massive.
So my acting career started from there. So then I thought, okay, this is interesting, this is very liberating. Let me give it a shot. Zero plans to be an actor ever. So I said, okay, Pranav, why don't you, since you teach, why don't you give us more? So I started taking workshops with Pranav first. Then every Sunday we used to sit and he used to tell us a situation. We would write scripts. We would, characterize our characters and perform, And we've done this for a good year. And after that, I started going for auditions, which were happening in Delhi.
But all this time, you're still doing wedding choreography.
I was continuing with my wedding choreography. I was continuing with my dance. I was continuing being a freelancer.
You still had to make money to survive.
I still had to make money. So now I was juggling between 4 roles instead of 3.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, let's learn this. So I started going for auditions within Delhi, and Delhi has only 2-3 production houses. Now there are more, had only 2-3 production houses back then. So there was very limited chance to get a, paid role or something. Fortunately, I got a gig, my first ever advertisement. And they just asked me to show up at 7 a.m. at a particular location. And I said, okay. They said, this is an ad shoot. There's a small montage role. We are just shooting 1 frame with you. I said, okay. I shot that and came back. After 1.5 months, the ad got released and I started getting calls. Hey, you worked with Amitabh Bachchan. You worked with... Like, no, I did not work with Amitabh Bachchan. They're like, no, your ad is with Amitabh. I was like, where is it coming from? So I checked and I asked the production. I was like, can you just share what went on air? They said, here is an ad. And that ad was for ICICI credit cards. They were coming up with a new format. Had a voiceover of Amitabh Bachchan.
Okay.
And the last frame, just before my frame, was Amitabh Bachchan himself. So I was like, this is my first ad. And people see me in the frame just before they see him. And I was like, okay, that's why they're thinking I worked with him.
Right.
But that shot was done separately.
Yeah.
I had a separate shot. But that became the thing. So I was getting calls from people, oh, you worked with them. I was like, no, but I understand the power of it now. So probably it was like a big thing, and I don't know how people perceive it to be. In my mind, I was like, you're perceiving it to be big. I'm not perceiving it to be big because I know I never even met him or worked with him. It could not be that simple that a first timer would get a chance to be in the same frame as him. So I was like, okay, but ठीक है, कोशिश करते हैं. Inshallah, हो सकता है एक दिन ऐसा आ भी जाए. So I'll share frame with him. So I kept auditioning, I kept going. And finally I decided to move to Delhi. From Delhi to Bombay.
Okay.
So and my parents were not happy. My parents were not happy with me taking up dance, taking up acting, doing all of this because they thought I'm just wasting my talent, education and not taking this seriously. So they were not happy with all those choices. So I used to lie to my parents and tell them I'm going for an assignment with my market research company. Yeah. I'll be back. And now my parents know this, so it's okay. But I used to be like, Mama, I'm going, Mama, वो IMRB का काम है, मैं आती हूँ 2 दिन में presentation देके. But I would sneak out and do all the other gigs or whatever was coming my way. And for Bombay also, I just lied to them. I told them that my company is asking me to relocate to Bombay for 3-4 months for a project, and I will come back. I packed my bags, I left Delhi. I requested a friend of mine, finding a house in Bombay, it's a nightmare. So I requested a friend of mine, थोड़ी जगह दे दो रहने के लिए, till I figure out my, base and everything. So I remember we were 4 people living in 1 BHK room.
What, really?
1 BHK apartment.
Where was this?
I was sleeping on the floor. Andheri, हाँ. Yeah. On the floor, gaddar डाल के in the hall. And I still remember those days when I had just landed in Mumbai and thinking, what do I do now? So I started collecting some information from people कि कहाँ auditions होते हैं, how do I go about doing this, tell me more. So somebody or the other will give me information कि रामनगर चले जाओ, वर्सोवा में है, ओशिवारा में है. These are all places where auditions happen. So this was my usual day. I would pack my bag, put all the different kind of clothes, some fruits, little bit of khana, put on my makeup, and I'll leave in the morning to give auditions. So from one place to another. I remember auditioning from like 10, 11 in the morning till 9 in the night. And I used to eat while, moving from one audition center to the other in an auto. So by the time the auto ride finishes, I have to finish my food so that I'm ready for the next audition. So I was literally like that struggling
hot, sweaty
actor.
Bombay.
I was literally like that struggling actor who's knocking doors, showing the face, do I fit in? And people will be like, no, you're not good. Ciao. Some people will be like, we like your face. Probably we can test you. So this was happening, and this continued for a long time, very long time. People don't know this part of my life.
And you managed to convince your parents you're still on your assignment.
No, they're mad at me. But what happened is I got a very important ad. I got ad for Dove.
Okay.
And it was a solo ad. And the team had come from Paris, all international crew, including second ADs and third ADs. They all were from Paris. And they just wanted a regular Indian face without showing the beautiful, dimple, clear skin girl, not that. They just wanted somebody who's relatable. And they probably liked something. I'm happy I look the way I look, very happy with it. So I think they just chose me and they said, okay, you're the face for Dove. Let's do a shoot with you.
The face for Dove?
Yeah. So I was shot and my ad was on air for good 4-5 months, which is very unusual for a ad to run for that long because ads have a very short shelf life. They come and they go. But in my case, it was on air for a very long time. Wow. And
so that was your second paid gig in acting?
No, I had done few more in between. I shot for some smaller brands. This was my good, big paid gig. Very good. exposure and everything. From this, I got more ads. I shot for Parachute. I shot for a lot of other ads.
Parachute?
Parachute.
Parachute,
brand,
the hair oil.
the hair oil brand.
Okay.
So that was with Isha Shirvani. We were doing some aerial and all because I had trained all of that back in Kingdom of Dreams. So I put my experience into use, and they shortlisted me very quickly. There was so many other ads also I did. I worked with some very good directors also, like Ram Madhvani sir and Gauri Shinde. I did one ad with Alia Bhatt also, so that it just started working out. I was in Bombay, I was regularly auditioning, not giving up. So it teaches you one very important lesson, how to get over rejection. Because consider this, you're auditioning for at least 5 to 6 things every single day, and that would culminate into like how many, like in 30 days if you're doing this, roughly 150 auditions, and out of that you may not even crack one. So you're just getting rejected every single day. And if you think about it, human minds are not designed to take so much of a rejection. We are not programmed to take so much of rejection. But if you don't see it as a rejection but redirection, you will find a way that, okay, this is not working, let me try something else. This is not working, let me try something else. And it will continue. So that is a point I actually lost the fear of rejection forever. So if people now reject me, I'm like, thank you, no problem. Redirection it is. It doesn't bother me at all. When I don't get selected for something, it doesn't bother me at all. So my fear of rejection was completely gone out thanks to my struggling actor phase in Mumbai. But it also taught me many other lessons, how to handle, whatever is coming your way, how to really be grounded and humble while, if people start recognizing you for your work or something. But my graph went like up and it came down because I could not figure out many other things which were needed.
Like what?
Networking, big part. And I always followed a simple lifestyle. I'm not that person who would party at night. I don't smoke, I don't drink. I'm a person who wakes up every morning and does yoga. So this was never part of my life. So that was one big thing which I don't know how to do. And there were all other elements also. I think now I look back and see I could have worked a little more on my craft. I was not that great an actor, in all honesty. I look at my old auditions now, I'm like, किसने मुझे select किया और क्यों select किया? मतलब बहुत ही खराब था वो.
So you're saying you went through a down phase because you're not networking enough?
I was not networking enough, and also I was not that talented.
Not that talented.
Clearly telling you upfront.
Another perspective which a friend of mine gave me about Bollywood. She is a DOP, okay? She studied in film school, then she went to Bombay for a couple of months to get work. And she's the first person who gave me this perspective, okay? She said, in Bollywood, everything works on favors and networking. Also, there's also a very dark side to it, especially for females. She said, I was selected to be an assistant cinematographer, and the
You're referring to casting couch?
Yes.
Yeah. Huh.
So the shoot is at 5 a.m. or 7 a.m. in the morning, okay? Just the previous night, in the night, the director calls me and said, let's go out for a drive. And she's like, no, I got to wake up at, this early hour and then shoot. I can't do it. On the spot, somebody called her saying, you're not shooting tomorrow.
That's very common.
And she also gave me another perspective. She said something very extreme. She said, in a way, Bollywood is the beginning point for the decline of morality in India. Okay, I don't know. It's a really
It's a very strong
hard
statement.
and strong statement. I
Very
agree.
strong statement.
However, she said before it was only women who were facing this. Now, because of the rise of homosexual people in
Men also face it, yeah.
Men also facing, and it's blatant. It's blatant. So she said it's a very ugly field to be in Bombay especially. I don't know about other states, but
Bollywood is in Bombay.
yeah,
You
no,
can't
but I'm
escape.
talking about the Tamil film industry,
acha, that I don't
Malayali
know.
film, and then Hyderabad.
I don't know.
Hyderabad is, she said, is a lovely place. But I don't think being a creative and being an actor is for everybody.
It's not. It's not. And I can say it out loud. At least I was not even making efforts to network because for me, this idea of late nights and let's have a drink was never in my routine. So I was very disciplined as a person, not just as an actor. So I used to get up every morning, take my nariyal pani, go to my workshops, train myself. And I know I had a long way to go, but I was never thinking of that I need to meet people and fix this part. I did not know how to do it, in all honesty. So it did not work out for me, and I'm okay.
At what point did you realize that, you know what, acting is not working out for me? I've done some good projects, but
I would have never quit, and I think I would have figured out something or the else. But what happened was, I was in Bombay, and I thought I'll continue, doing this till the time I break through. My father actually got a heart attack, and I just got a call randomly one fine day. My mother is like, you need to be in Delhi because I'm taking him to the hospital and just come. So this was very alarming, considering my father is a person who's a health conscious person. But I rushed back to Delhi, and because he was in such a state, I had never seen my father like that. He's a workaholic. No matter how bad he is in whatever shape or whatever state of mind, he would always go to work. So I've seen him, like, in my mind, he's a warrior. And to see him on hospital bed, completely helpless like that, it shook me. For the first time, I was like, oh, this is not something I expected. And it was very, very difficult for me. And I'm the elder daughter in the family, and I don't have a brother, and none of my cousins live in Delhi. Nobody is there. So I am the one who has always been brought up in a way that I led everything in my house. So I was the backbone in a way. So I was like, oh, I need to be home. So I spent few months in Delhi with my father, with my mother to support. And then I thought, okay, this was in June or July. And by November, I thought, okay, let me go back. Things have settled down a little, and I will continue working as an actor. But I went back to Mumbai, and within 15 days, I got another call when my father called me, said, your mom is not well, and I can't handle this alone. Because she was breaking, and that was the
all
time.
that stress got to her, is it?
All the stress got to her, all the medications, because she is also, none of us have seen a father like that. So I was like, okay, now this is not going to work out. So within 1 hour, I packed every single thing I had. I booked a flight, and within 1 hour, I took that decision. I'm going to leave Bombay and be with my parents for as long as they want me to be. People could say this is an impulsive decision. Could be, but I knew my family needed me. So I just left everything without a second thought. Whether it will work out, I was close to breaking through, nothing. It's like my family needs me, I'm going back. So I came back to Delhi. Now Delhi doesn't have that many things to offer, opportunities to offer. And I had left my wedding choreography's work, I had left, my other work, because Delhi is where I was working as a wedding choreographer or, a dancer or a performer. Now nobody knew me because I was out of the circuit. I was in Bombay, I was doing acting, I was doing other things. So they did not really, see me as an option to give more work. So again, financial stability becomes a question mark. So I said, what do I do now? Okay, then I sat with this information that, okay, what all do I know? Can I put that together? So I said, okay, let's start make videos. And because I've now got an idea of camera, lighting, audio, I said, let's start.
No wonder.
Yeah.
Now I know
Yeah.
when we shoot how you're very specific.
Yeah, because I've seen some best art directors on set. I've seen some of the best minds on set, and I would simply, whenever I go and, shoot, I would sit back and just observe. Mouth shut, only observe. And they are amazing. They're amazing. Because the way their mind functions, they see so many elements. And I used to just listen to what the communication was happening on the set. Before you hit roll and action, a lot of work is going in the background. People don't see all that. That is the main crux, the whole thing. And I would just sit there and just observe them. I would go to sets couple of hours early. Even though my call time would be late, I would go early and watch, sit and observe, and just understand what is happening around me, why this light is here, why this movement is not happening, why this person is moving. I would just simply observe. And that gave me a lot of information about content creation. So I said, okay, now I have this understanding, let me put it together and see what I can do. But single person, how much money can you put in? So I said, okay, let's vlog. So I started vlogging and creating my content.
About what?
About my life.
Oh,
Whatever
really?
I'm going
Where,
through.
on YouTube?
On YouTube, yeah.
Okay. Are those still available?
Yeah, they're still available.
Yeah?
These are my vlogs, and I've done, I think, 30, 40 videos in a year. Edited all of them by myself. Got a pirated version of a editing software because I couldn't afford the original.
Wow. So you edited them by yourself
yes,
on your
I edited
laptop?
all
Shot
my
on your phone?
Shot on my phone, edited everything by myself. Every single edit I've done myself. Therefore, I know how much time it takes precisely to edit each and everything.
Yeah.
So when my editors come back and say, "Ma'am, समय लगेगा," I'm like, मत बताओ मैं खुद कर चुकी हूँ मैं बहुत एडिटिंग किया है मैंने so I was in Delhi and I had no opportunities but I wanted to put out content and I wanted to be familiar, continue to work with camera. When I would sit with my own footage and look at that and edit them, I like, shit, I'm a bad vlogger, I need to do better. So editing gave me more information how to be better in front of camera.
Yes.
That was my learning. I was like, nahin, Shiny, you need to really, really work on yourself. Editing became my teacher. So I was just observing and learning, trying to get better with it. So I've spent a lot of time doing the back-end work.
Mm.
So I precisely know what it takes to put a content out there. And I continued doing it. Parallelly, yoga came back in a very big way in my life. I did not talk much about yoga. I started practicing yoga in 2008 in my office in IMRV International.
Oh, while you were still working?
While I was still working. So I used to go thrice a week, an hour early before my office timings and learn yoga. So my yoga journey is actually very, very, very vast, very different. But once I was back in Delhi, yoga came back in a very big way and I was just had no other thing to do. I was just practicing a lot more than I would usually do. I was still practicing in Bombay. I was still doing it when I was in other professions. But suddenly I was just doing vlogs and practicing yoga, nothing else. So one fine day, I was taking a stroll in a park and I saw a group of aunties doing yoga and a good, rigorous routine. And I was like, oh, I need to be part of this. And I was missing the group energy because I was practicing solo mostly. So I just asked them, can I join? They said, yeah. Within few sessions, they realized that I have a lot of practice and I come from a lot of body training and, dance training. It came easy to me and I was just doing the asana part. So after a few sessions, one of my teachers, she had to go for some work. She said, can you fill up for me? I have to leave for something. Just take today's class. I said, but I'm not a yoga teacher. How can I take a class? They said, no, you know enough. Just do it. And then she was away for a while and I continued teaching randomly out of nowhere in a park to these ladies who are 40 plus. And they were like, hey, it's working out. You should be a yoga teacher. I said, hello? Yoga teacher? Like market researcher, wedding choreographer, performing artist, actor, yoga teacher doesn't resonate because it's not aligning anywhere. So in my head, I was like, ye kaise hoga? They said, no, we're really finding this very beneficial. Go get a certification done and at least try. I was very resistant to this idea of becoming a yoga teacher. It's like, ye kaun karega? I want to be an actor. I want to be in front of camera. I want to do content creation. But they said, no, we are telling you, go. This is where I say it was all Divine's plan. None of it was in my list. None of it. When I picked up acting, it was not in my list. When I picked up yoga, it was not in my list. It's all his plan. So I said, okay. So I went and did a certification for a month. And I was like, same feeling. Why didn't I do this before? this is life changing. And I continued practicing. So I first did a 50-hour certification, then 100-hour asana certification, then another 100-hour pranayam certification. Then I did a 200-hour teacher's training course. I just kept learning. And I practiced more yoga, and I started teaching more yoga. Suddenly, all my commercials and casting opportunities started coming in, which were all related to yoga. They were like, hey, we're looking for a yoga practitioner for a shoot. Can you come in? I'm like, yeah. Now, I was no more an actor. I became a yoga practitioner who can be on the camera. So it was a unique combination for many. They're like, oh, we're looking for somebody who can deliver us good lines, have a good camera presence, at the same time can do yoga. So I became the very obvious choice, and a lot of work started coming in, which I had lost hope for, to be honest, because I was in Delhi. So it again started working out. Again, there was a dip and there was a high, there was a dip and a high. And I was like, okay, maybe yoga is the way to go. Because these are just nothing but the signs from the divine, where divine is telling you, tum chalo, I'm with you. So I picked that up. And I realized the more I was practicing yoga, the more grounding, the more balance I was getting. I was very happy. So, and more than me, my students started coming back and they told me stories that I could not really imagine, because it was making an impact. Finally, I was doing something in my life where other people's life were also transforming. Finally, it came to a point where something was shifting at a larger level, little more than my personal thing. I said, okay, this is much deeper than I thought. So why don't I take it further? So I decided to build an app.
Okay.
Yes.
This is a brand new avatar now.
Because I come from a marketing background.
And your sister is a software engineer.
Correct. And my sister is a software engineer. I'm happy with numbers. I look at numbers like they are my like they're my buddies. And I'm not afraid of jumping into something new. I said, okay, let me do yoga online, reach out to a wider audience so that many people get benefit from this. The stories that I was listening to was just in one park in Paschim Vihar by 10 ladies or 20 ladies or 30 ladies. But I said, what if I take this to 30,000, 40,000, 3 lakh, 4 lakh, 3 billion, 4 billion people? Can I go wide? And online was, the only medium. Mm-hmm. But back then, I'm talking about 2018, 19, there was no concept of learning yoga online. Because people are like, you need to go to a yoga studio to learn yoga. So I was like, no, let's make an app so that people from anywhere in the world can learn, and there should be no limitations. So I decided to create an app. I did the UI UX of my app by myself. I wrote all the terms and conditions, cancellation policies, refund policies, everything by myself. I was just like putting every damn thing into it.
Wow, I mean, incredible.
Literally, because listen, it's simple. You're already paying to the coder. You're already paying to so many people. Whatever things you can do, I would just research online and do it myself.
Without ChatGPT also.
Without ChatGPT also. I was like, please. And I remember putting in all that money. Whatever savings I had put them in the app. Never, like I said, never took a single penny from my father. And it's like, app to karna hai, ye to karna hai. And because app was very popular.
So how much did that whole thing cost?
Around close to 5 lakhs.
Whoa.
Yeah. Wow. Close to, I think, 4.5.
That's a lot.
4.5 to 5 lakhs. And especially
when you don't have a regular income.
That was the bigger part.
That is the painful part. When you don't know whether it's going to work.
But I wish somebody would have told me, or I should have spoken to more people before taking this decision. I wish I had this information before, that running an app is more difficult than creating one. It's very challenging to sustainably expand your app and run it, because it takes a lot of money. You have to upgrade it, you have to market it, you have to ensure the downloads. It was just not easy. For me, what I knew, content creation. I said, okay, let's do this. Now my app is up and running, it's ready. How do I let people know that I'm doing this and let them download this? I want them to download this. So I started creating content on social media to promote my app. So I started making yoga videos. I started putting out content. Okay, hey, if you want to learn yoga online, here is an app. Initially, nobody showed interest because it was online yoga. And then comes COVID, 2020.
Okay.
People are locked down. They can't go to gyms. Their physical, mental, emotional health is suffering. And guess what?
You have an app.
I have an app.
Okay.
And suddenly I was the only yoga teacher and the initial few yoga teachers who was okay with using technology to teach yoga.
Yeah.
And I was completely familiar with it because I was already there. I was anyway telling them, kar lo, online yoga kar lo. People were not open to that idea. So, and as soon as I started putting more content, I started doing live sessions during COVID. Twice a day, morning, evening. I would do Q&A sessions in the evening for people who are suffering from any mental, emotional health issues during COVID. And I would sit diligently every single night at 9 o'clock to answer their questions. And I would religiously go live morning, evening, without a single day break to go live and do yoga and just let people know, okay, please come, please learn. And while all the other people in COVID were like, how we will function, I was overworking during COVID.
And so you were putting all this content on the app, promoting the app, and it was a paid app, I'm sure. There was a subscription.
No, it was not a bad decision. It was not a subscription-based app. It was a use-based app. So if you book a session, you pay for it. If you don't, that's okay.
But when you say book a session, is it a pre-recorded session?
No, it's a live session with the teacher.
Oh.
So you book a session. Let's say I want to learn from you. I will book a session with you. Then you will come online. I'll come online, and we can do a session. So you can monitor me live. I wanted this to be live, one-on-one sessions. So, but before I could bring people to the app, I had to be out there in the public. So I was doing live sessions as free sessions to let people know that I am running an app and they can choose to come for a one-on-one as well. And so this was a lot of work. Like I said, I was overworking during COVID.
And you were the only instructor?
No, I had got 5-6 more people on board with me.
So you had to promote them as well?
I had to promote them as well. So I had arranged their sessions, their lives as well, everything.
And this is all you're doing solo? You had any staff or anything?
Nobody.
Wow.
Nobody. I was overworking, I was telling you. It was like people were chilling or whatever. They were, I think, not chilling. People were in a very fearful stage, mostly in COVID. I was a very entrepreneurial stage. Kaam karna hai. And I was so geared. While बाहर नहीं जा सकते, कुछ कर ही नहीं सकते. So I would put all my time, effort, energies into making content and promoting my app and doing this. As a result, my social media following started to grow. And suddenly, before people noticed me as a teacher, they started noticing me as a content creator. So for some people, they must have come across my page as an influencer maybe. That was not my idea. I was thinking of promoting my app and my other teachers. But a day came that
and this is more on Instagram, YouTube?
More on Instagram. I was doing more on Instagram because Instagram was more popular. It's still more popular. So it came to a point that I finally got a call from a brand and they said, we will pay you money to put a picture out there with our product. I said, what is it called? It's like brand endorsements. You are an influencer. We are paying you. So you are, part of the content creation team. I said, oh, is this also a source of income? And suddenly in my mind, oh, really? I'm thinking of my app. And suddenly, this happened. I'm like, okay.
And all this time you're editing the videos by yourself?
Everything I was doing by myself, day in, day out. I literally took courses on how to build an Instagram, how to edit, how to actually, I would spend a lot of time in just learning. I remember doing this late nights, designing my grid, planning my next post, planning my communication, taking up another course, attending another live. There's so many people who were doing that I would follow all those people who were teaching how to grow on social media. So they were my mentors on my social media. I never followed any meme pages or any of those stuff. So I was always about karna kya hai, let me fix this. So in an attempt, the social media following grew, and one fine day one reel hit millions, and suddenly you see a huge shift in your followers. And I was not prepared for any of that. I knew I have to reach a larger audience, but I never knew how it will turn out to be, how the graph will be. And now, in all honesty, I still do my editing, a lot of my editing myself.
Okay.
Till today. I enjoy doing it. Sometimes I get very tired. But in all honesty, I'm very detached from my social media now. I've come to that point that I just see it as a message that's coming my way. If it's working, great. If it's not working, great. I'm extremely, extremely in a peaceful state and not rushing for more followers. I'm not chasing numbers. I'm not chasing likes. I'm not chasing comments. I'm not chasing anything. I'm in a very, very healthy space because I have started to see my social media as a source of divine information. So if it is working
Information
out...
for yourself?
For myself. If it is working out,
How do you say that?
Because I'll check within me that the behavior that I see in my people, in my community, am I doing the same thing in my personal life or not? So let's say they will watch the whole thing but don't engage. Okay? Or if a particular topic is more interesting and not the other ones, they will just not engage. So I would start to reflect, am I doing a similar thing in my life? Am I discarding things that are not of my use? So it became a lesson. Now social media and I have a very healthy relationship.
Yeah. Before it was...
Very, very healthy relationship.
Yeah.
Of course, I think all content creators go through this phase of how will it grow, whether it will grow or not. I've left all of that. I've gone through all those ups and downs. Sometimes somebody would comment something very rude, and very, very demeaning. And you were like, hey, I'm just here to teach yoga. What's wrong with you? Why would you pull me down? And there were days when I would cry about it and feel, what am I doing? I'm not here to take this. But there are days when I'm like, okay, that's your perspective. I'm not going to allow my mental peace, to waver just because you have a perspective, which may not match with my perspective. And I'm okay with it.
So now what happened to the app?
So, good question. Coming back. So, like I said, running an app is more difficult than making one. And I did not have such deep pockets like CultFit and BunkerFit and all the other, apps where you would go and learn online yoga. So, slowly more and more companies were investing into online fitness education and online fitness apps. So, they were actually the biggies, and people would obviously, because they're promoting and marketing, people would obviously download them. So my app just disappeared in the big sphere, and I was a little tiny player down there probably. But that was a very important lesson for me, very, very important lesson for me. So now I look back, and if I could change it, I would have, instead of putting my money in an app, could have only started with just a Zoom session and did the whole thing just with a website. It would have worked out. Because people just wanted to, just have an interaction and take a session.
So instead of building an app from scratch, just use the available tools
and do it. Yeah. But back then there were not many available. Things changed post-COVID dramatically. But I am talking about pre-COVID.
Yeah, but then Skype was there.
Skype was there, yeah.
Google.
Yeah, they were Zoom was also paid version, a high-end version was available, but not as conveniently as today.
Yeah.
So all those are learnings. So the whole process took me into content creation, and then a lot of brands started approaching me that would you create yoga content for us? Would you design and record a program for us? So I shot for the brands I'm saying, CultFit, I shot a program for. I have a series of sessions on Bold Fit website. I've shot for Bunker Fit. I've shot for many other brands.
And now we're shooting for Times.
And now we're shooting for Times of India. And all thanks to you, Ryan. Actually, you've been very, very supportive. Extremely supportive. Like I keep telling this to my sister also. She's one of my closest people in my life. I tell her also, it's like I have found a very supporting team member when it comes to my journey, and Ryan is there so I can, do more because he's there by my side.
Well,
so thank you.
To be honest, I have to tell this to the audience. This was not supposed to happen. I came here, we set up 3-camera, 2-mic setup for Shiny podcast with the guest who is about to come. Shiny has arranged everything, the location, her hair, makeup, everything. So this credit does not go to me. It's Shiny. I'm just here to support you with the camera, the mics and stuff.
That's a big support.
Which was not supposed to happen. And this interview was never supposed to happen. But I'm so glad it did because it's given me so much more insight on your own life, And now I understand where you come from. And that's a huge eye-opener. I think a lot of the viewers are just going to really appreciate the hustle you've gone through, and where you are today. They finally understood how you came here. I don't know whether you've ever shared it.
No, I didn't actually. I haven't shared these many details ever on any public platform because I feel nahi, abhi kaam bahut baki hai. So till the time I don't reach where I see myself, this is okay, chalega. I'm not trying to demean what I've gone through or, try to put it in a thing. But I still feel that everybody you see really working where people are actually noticing you, finally, they did not have it easy. They never had it easy. And I can give this in writing because you have to go through a lot. You have to go through a lot of challenges. Understand that people have to overcome their own fears, their own patterns, their own limiting beliefs. And before that, none of this is possible. You have to let go of a lot of old version of you in order to find this version of you.
I came across a very beautiful video recently which said, everyone talks about smart work smart. She said that's absolute BS. Because unless you work hard, unless you put in the blood, sweat and tears, you don't understand what is smart work.
Yeah.
You have to. There's no compromise.
I completely agree with this actually. Your hard work put together for years becomes smart work after a point of time. You may feel that, okay, this is smart. No, it has come from a lot of hustle.
Lot of pain, lot of mistakes.
It has come from a lot of hustle. There was a time I know I did not have enough money, so I slept on, the passage in a train in order to make a journey from Mumbai to Delhi, and I was okay doing it. People don't know all of that.
Yeah.
People don't see all of that. They see a yoga instructor who is teaching for Times of India or, hosting a podcast or doing this and traveling internationally for retreats, but they don't see any of those what has gone, behind it. But that is okay. And trust me, each one of them has gone through something very, very big. Emotionally, mentally, physically. And you continue. The idea is to fail for a decade. Like one of my mentors, Rajiv Talreja, says, fail for a decade. It's okay. Continue failing. Because if you don't give up, you will find your way. Most people stop because they think, oh, nothing is working out, I'm going to just give up, it's fine. No, you probably will be this close to a breakthrough, but don't stop. So continue.
Thank you for bringing that up because I wanted to understand at what point did you meet Rajiv Talreja, take up his coaching, and what was his insights on your journey and how you should pivot or should you pivot? Like, I'd love to learn that.
Very interesting phase. So
did this happen like after the app closed
much
or something?
later. I've done a lot of other things after the app and being a content creator also. There's more actually that happened, but I'm gonna, I think, keep it to this question. So I was in a point where my yoga business and yoga work was going down. people were back to the studios, and there were many yoga teachers who were available to teach at a much lesser price, and everything was, changing.
So I think then it's important. So after the app failed, you said you did many things.
Yeah.
Tell us what all you did and what failed, and that is what helped you to go on to the next stage, right? So it's important. Please share.
So after the app was not working out, I was just teaching online. I was doing a lot of sessions online over Zoom and stuff. For some time, till the time the COVID lockdown was happening, it was going fine. So after that, I got in touch with some creators, other yoga teachers, other wellness creators in the online space, and we thought of collaborating to boost the whole presence on social media. So I was thinking of ways to increase my business, this downloading of the app and reaching out to more people, and at least find more ways to earn, because social media and online space has a lot of scope. So I collaborated with another Ayurveda teacher, and she invited me. She said, would you like to do a retreat together? I said yes. So I went for that retreat, and I did not know who all would be coming, because
This is the Sukoon retreat?
No. Sukoon is a new
Okay.
project. I have done many retreats before I actually formalized Sukoon with Neha. So I'm talking about back in 2022. So she said, okay, let's do this. And I said, okay. So we were trying to promote this retreat, and then we got some participants. It was mostly her connections, to be honest. She got a lot of people. And the day I was there at the retreat, something very interesting happened. I did not know anybody. Most of the people were new, and obviously, it was new space for me. So I was talking about my experience of app, how did it not work out, and how I'm trying to do this online thing. I'm coming from a marketing experience and this and that. So in my retreat was a gentleman, Mr. Rajiv. So he was just very curious to know about what all I've done. So I told him this is a tech space. I've developed this app and everything. So he said, can you show me? I said, yeah, sure. So he saw my app. He went through it. Next day, during the retreat, he told me, Shiny, I have a proposition for you. Let me know.
We're back from the break. We just recorded your interview with Terence Lewis. I think we can now say that it's happened.
It happened. It's still having, from fingers crossed to oops, pinching myself. Yeah, it did happen.
And it was a fantastic interview. I was amazed by how he mixes creativity and productivity, and he read a lot of books, so he shared about that. But let's get back to your story. For the Terence Lewis podcast, you got to follow Shiny, and she's going to be posting it. So we're going to see that when it comes out. Shiny, you were talking about a Mr. Rajiv who said he looked at your app at this retreat, and he said he has a proposition for you.
Yeah.
Let's continue from there. So
I did not know his complete name, to be honest, because once everybody was introducing themselves in the retreat, he just said, I'm Rajiv. I said, okay, Rajiv. So out of curiosity, whatever questions he had, I was answering them. And then he said, I am building a wellness tech platform, and I want you to come on board and work with us, because you have built an app and you come from a wellness background. So I asked him, what is it about? So he shared his idea of Omni Life, which is, according to him, there are 10 pillars of longevity, which he was working on. And he said, we want to go deeper into nutrition, so we can make use of your understanding of wellness and get some customer insights. So he asked me to work with them. And I said, okay, so what is it about? And I wanted to know more details. That's when I got to know that he's Mr. Rajiv Bajaj, the chairman of Bajaj Capital. And I had no idea whom I was speaking to. And he said, I believe in wellness. I'm very strongly rooted in it, and I understand all of this. And it's something close to my heart, therefore I want to take it further. So this project will be led by my younger son, Shivam Bajaj, and you'll be working with him. So I was like, okay. And suddenly, after I came back from the retreat, the whole travel and all, I was sitting with Miss Mr. Rajiv Bajaj, Mrs. Anu Bajaj, and Shivam Bajaj in their space, and they were evaluating this possibility. And I find myself like again in places which I never thought I would come across. And wahan pe I was just talking to them and trying to understand their vision, what they want to do with this, where is this going. And I remember saying something very, which is coming from a marketing, market research, consumer insights background. I remember telling them that this could be a very good way to revive your Bajaj Capital users as well. The ones who've been dormant and not actively investing with you. You can approach them with this proposition of health and get them back into the game. And I remember that silence after that suggestion that lingered for a while. And Sir and Ma'am looked at each other, and Anu Ma'am looked at Shiva, and they said, "We'll get back to you." And that was it. The very next day I got a call. They said, "We want you to come join." So I was working with this venture called personalnutrition.com, Peanut, and I worked with all of them for 2 years. So every single board meeting, every single, discussion.
So this was in Delhi?
This was in Delhi, all in Delhi. This was from 2022 to 2024. So 2 years I was with them. So I was working with Ayurveda doctors in this project, trying to understand a little bit more about nutrition, which was not my forte. And at the same time, it was very interesting because it somewhere had a, coherence with yoga. So yoga and Ayurveda are sister subjects. So I was expert in yoga, and then I was getting to learn Ayurveda through that. So it was very holistic. So now you can ask me any questions about food and nutrition, I will have an answer for it. And all of that came from my experience with Peanut Personal Nutrition, and thanks to all the doctors who had simplified everything.
So was that, on what capacity were you working with them?
I was working with them for marketing and consumer insights, and
So that was a full-time job, or what was it?
No, I was with them as a consultant.
Okay.
That was not my job, but it gave me a good exposure in terms of the vision, the way they operate. And I was very, very inspired by Mr. Rajiv Bajaj, and therefore I interviewed him also for my podcast, and it got recently released. Because he's a man, you would look up to him and he's rooted in it. He just does not say and talk about it, he lives it. I've never seen him angry or upset. He's always there for his employees, rather he doesn't even consider them as employees. He considers them as team and family, and he lives by that. He laughs and he shares his good moments and everything with them. He's very supportive of them and extremely grounded at the same time. He's very approachable. Like, I would look at him and like, wow, that's kind of a role model for you. And I got to learn so much from, you get to learn so much from people like these who are living what they are saying. And this was very empowering. This whole journey was very empowering. So 2 years I was working with them. And a lot of people don't know so many elements because things were just happening. At the same time, I was creating content and, helping Peanut. Slowly, I was trying to fix and get more answers about both Peanut and my personal yoga brand, like to get more of clients and get better with sales and marketing. So that's where I enrolled for a workshop with Mr. Rajiv Talreja, because I was trying to put both the businesses in place and figure out how to get better. So I randomly came across an ad and I signed up for it, did a 2-hour workshop, then did his GAP program, like a basic 2-day program. And from there, there were more ideas and things started taking shape. So I realized there were mistakes I was making. There were things that I never considered when I started out. तो मुझे बहुत सारी चीज़ें दिखनी शुरू हो गई कि फिक्सिंग की ज़रूरत है. So I enrolled for another program with Mr. Rajiv Talreja.
The 6 months one.
Yeah. So that's where I got an opportunity to, work with him a little more closely to understand how and what he's suggesting. And this whole idea of my podcast has actually been recommended by Mr. Rajiv Talreja only. The name of the podcast is also given by him. So he was trying to tell us that you need to build authority and credibility, and you can do it in various ways. And I asked him, I was like, because I'm good at content creation.
But don't you already have authority and credibility because of your personal brand?
But there is no, I would not say उसमें कोई कमी नहीं थी. But here, let's say for today, for example, we did a podcast just right now. Here you get to learn a lot more because you're speaking to the best of minds who have gone through a journey that you have no idea about. So even if I'm coming with credibility and authority, I am still a student at the end of the day, and
So
I'm
I guess-
happy to learn.
Yeah, what I'm asking you is, what's the difference between your personal yoga brand, shiny.yoga, and now your podcast? Why did you select that? What did you feel it could add?
So for me, I was very clear that I don't want to be just a yoga teacher. I wanted to be a wellness educator. And that's where I see myself. Of course, my tool is yoga. My rooting is in yoga. But there's more than yoga that exists when it comes to wellness. And because I took a lot of time in gaining that understanding of different modalities that are needed for wellness, be it neuro-linguistic programming, which is called NLP. I'm a certified NLP coach. So I decided to learn that
When
as
did you
well.
have time for that?
I'm single. I have a lot of time. I put all my time, effort, energies into learning and developing and creating and going for it. So yeah, that's true. So I learned that, and I learned other modalities as well.
So maybe what I'm asking is, you started a podcast for a reason, right?
I started a podcast for a reason.
So what was that, and why should other people consider podcasting? What does it do for your brand?
See, since it's relatively new in my plate, my intention of doing podcast was simply to speak to those people who have aced their game and learn from the very best. I consider anybody and everybody who's gone through that journey as a mentor, even if they share one small thing that, it can just flip the direction of your journey, like completely change the direction. And I remember attending some very important workshops and speaking to these people where they give you a perspective that's missing. Because at the end of the day, you are sum total of people you spend maximum time with, okay? And if you want to level up your game, you need to have that mindset that these people have. So I wanted to learn from the very best. That was the intention. And also the fact that I get to meet more people and learn, understand different perspectives. So there's no one route to success. There's no one way of, getting to where you want to be. And they all have taken different routes. And I want to discover my own route while learning that what worked and what did not work in their case.
Yeah, but if you want to learn, you can just watch videos about them or watch their interviews. Why start a podcast?
It's very different. I still watch videos, I read books, I watch other podcasts as well. But when you're interacting with people, you're not just interacting and exchanging information, you're exchanging energy. And that is also very, very crucial because you get to sense about somebody's energy once you're in person sitting with them. Like Terence just now, was sitting next to us, and then it was a very different thing. Otherwise, I would have just watched him on television or a podcast, and it would have given me some information about his life. Now I know his vibe. Now I know his being. Now I know how he operates. I have a lot more information than what he said verbally. So I believe that is very powerful. So you get to know, okay, this is this kind of a person with this aura, and the next time you'll meet somebody with a similar energy and aura, you'll be like, yeah, I know where it's coming from. this, you can't fake energy, you can't fake your vibe, and you immediately sense it. So I think it's very important to also be in that energy physically. So I'm happy to actually,
And also,
to get
I
this
guess
opportunity.
you may not have had this opportunity to interact and we spent like 2 hours with him, right? If you were not recording it for the whole world, right? Why would he come?
Yeah, he wouldn't.
Why would he share his entire life if it's not on camera, if it's
not
So
possible.
you're also giving something away, right? You're giving them a gift. Do you feel like podcasting also gives you that opportunity?
I think podcasting puts you in a position where you can make your small little dreams come to reality. Like if I would have invited him for a, let's say, meal, he might have said I'm busy. But here I want to genuinely know his journey, about his internal world, and I'm curious. So when you're curious about things, और जब आप किसी और के बारे में कुछ जानना चाहते हो, so that person automatically senses it, and they are more open to give you their time. They're more receptive to your ideas, and you can have a much more deeper, meaningful conversation. Otherwise, I would have met him and said, oh, I'm such a big fan and it was so nice to see you on TV and that's about it. Can we have a picture? And I would have left. But here I know a lot more about Terence now, and if I see this from a perspective of dreams to reality, now I also know what is it that I need to do. I've learned enough, or I've gauged enough. Now I'll sit back with this information tonight before I go to bed. I'll close my eyes, I'll recall everything what he said, I will make mental notes of it, or maybe physical notes of it, and I'll go back and say, okay, if this person did this, and it transformed him, can I apply something and also achieve my dreams? So those learnings are important, and those learnings are very powerful, and we don't just consume information from our eyes and ears. We consume information and everything with all our senses, with our being. So when you're physically present with somebody, your entire being is involved in the process. You're listening, you're watching, you're sensing, your body is feeling the energy. And it's a very deep experience. It's an experience which you can't fake. And you store the information for much longer also if you are actually interacting with somebody rather than just seeing them over the screen. So your information registration happens faster, and therefore whenever you want to access that information, your mind will remind you that this is the point. You know what, Terence said that, or Rajiv Bajaj sir said that, or Rajiv Talreja sir said that. Can you apply this in this moment? And I'll be like, yeah, that makes sense. So you bring back that. So while you're trying to work towards your dreams, you're also trying to put together all the information, and it's coming to you automatically because you've been fully immersed in this experience while you were podcasting and working with them.
So you did like a 6 months course with Rajiv.
I would not say course, but yeah.
But what are the outcomes of that? How did he align you?
That was
I guess podcasting is one of the things that he recommended.
Yeah, basically he recommended author marketing, and he said you can interview some best of minds to put together a book. And then I said, okay, if I can interview them, why not interview them through a podcast? So the idea in a way came from there. So that's where I'm culminating towards. So I want to put together the best of learnings, the best of podcast learnings into a book eventually, which I will do. And this is something I'm saying out loud on the camera, which means I'm taking accountability, and you guys can also hold me accountable if I don't. So I would do this. So that's where it began from.
I guess many of us don't understand that influencing also has a lot of revenue streams coming in. So did he align that? How did he align that? I mean, you are one influencer that I know who has gone to a business coach, right? So I'm sure something amazing came out of it.
No, there are many content creators who go to business coaches. The ones who are serious about business. And because I come from a background where I did not take up content creation as the first thing, because I'm coming from a marketing background. My father is a businessman. Numbers don't, bog me down. I have a clear sense of, revenues and profitability because I was working with all the CEOs and CMOs of the various companies, and I knew that this is the kind of thing you want to do. So the sense of business was always there. कि करना है, इस तरह से करना है. I became a content creator because I was trying to market and do the other thing. I never chose content creation because I wanted to be a content creator. It just happened so in the process that the following grew and everything. In my head, I've always been and will always be an entrepreneur. That was the first thing, because otherwise I would not have put a app in place and would not have done the other things. So going to a business coach was something very logical in my head.
Right.
But other people don't see it that way because they just see you on the social media and they're like, "Acha, haan, yoga teacher, business coach, samajh nahi aa raha hai." But for me, there was no disconnect. I was very clear from day one that it's work, and the idea is to make a bigger impact, reach more people, help more people take yoga and continue practicing yoga because it is life transforming. The ones who practice it will know it. They swear by it. They totally know it कि बहुत बहुत ज़्यादा deep rooted है और बहुत गहरा काम करता है. So I would say I'm just blessed, and also the fact that I got this opportunity to learn from the best and best, and I want to continue doing this.
Okay, so let's get back a little bit. You did a 2-year stint with the Bajajs, right? So what is the outcome of that? And
well, intangible, but first I got to learn a lot about Ayurveda, the science of Ayurveda, the science of nutrition, because I was working with doctors day in, day out. Again, not on the cards. मैंने नहीं सोचा था मैं ये पढ़ूंगी सारा, but I did. Second, I also got to know that how this wellness space is shaping up every single day, and how various ventures, various wellness products, solutions, services are coming up, and how to work in tandem with that. So that gave me a good perspective. And also, I think one of the most important things that I learned was how to lead, which came from Mr. Rajiv Bajaj. He's one of the best leaders I have seen. Very, very efficient, very grounded, joyful, loving, approachable. So kudos to that man. Like, I really have huge admiration for him. And he's just not like this at the workspace. He's like this in his personal space as well. He's very holistic and very, very grounded.
okay, what about did Peanut finally take off, or what happened?
So
to Peanut?
I parted my ways because I wanted to go out of Delhi and did not want to stay in Delhi, to be honest. But of course, like a good organization they should have people, whom they can interact with more in person. And that was not happening with me because I was traveling for my other work and a lot of retreats and assignments and yoga sessions and sometimes brand events or whatever was coming. So I was not physically present as much as I would have wanted. So I said, okay, no, this is not going to work out. And I wanted to be close to nature. I also said the same thing to Rajiv sir as well. I said, I can't take Delhi. It's nothing against Peanut, but I was getting this huge pull that I want to be away from the madness and the chaos. So I wanted to live a little slower life close to nature. That's why I decided to move to Goa. And I said, okay, if you need my support ever, I'm just a call away. We still have very beautiful turns. If anytime and every time, there's a conversation needed, I said, I go meet them and I tell them, okay, I'm right here. And they know this as well. But physically, nahi ho pa raha tha. So I said, nahi.
And
I choose mountains and beaches over anything else.
yeah, I can understand that. Okay, so I guess after you moved to Goa, you attended the Rajiv Talreja course.
No, much before that.
Okay.
Much before
Much
that.
before
I
that.
was working in a lot of other capacities also, because my idea was to grow both Peanut and my yoga business, which I call You Yogic. So the idea was to grow both Peanut and You Yogic, and I was trying to take all these learnings and fit in, into this.
Okay, so now let's understand how content creators make money. One is you get brand deals, right?
Which doesn't happen very often,
Doesn't happen often.
as people would like to think. Well,
Okay.
it happens.
Because I mean, you quit a very well-paying job.
Yeah,
You invested in an app which didn't work out.
correct.
We have to make money. We have to grow in life. So, what are the things that you figured out after Rajiv Talreja's things that helped you align your finances and your revenue streams? Okay, but maybe before that, I'll say one is brand deals, which don't happen that often.
I'll answer the first question first. How content creators make money? They get brand deals. They can sell a product or service, because if a content creator, just makes content, they do not get much out of it. And if you're only an Instagram content creator, then definitely Instagram is not paying you for the views and all. YouTube does, but Instagram doesn't. Unless and until you're into long form content, you rely on brand deals. You should have a product or a service that you can sell. Some people are not even seen as an authority where they can sell something. So they're just seen as somebody who's, let's say, for example, a dancer or a lifestyle content creator. If they come up with a service, people may not buy from them because they're looking for credibility, they're looking for expertise, and they may not have that to offer unless and until they are selling the service that they are displaying. Which means if I'm a dancer and I'm making TikTok reels and everything on social media, and I also decide to teach dance, that people will buy in, so I'm selling the service I'm displaying, so people will say yes to that. But if I say, okay, I'm going to sell you a wellness product, people will say, who are you? So it doesn't resonate with that. But there are some content creators who do it very well. Like whatever their expertise is, they just put it out there for people and people buy. So yes, content creation is basically a distribution channel. You're just getting more and more people to get to know about your product or service. If you see it that way, to make money. If you're doing it for passion, you can continue to do it as a passion also, which is great. Then you leave that expectation that it will monetize, which is also good. But if you want to monetize it, consider it to be your distribution channel, and then people will come in as and when you continue to make efforts with content creation.
Do you recommend having your own product or service to sell, but which is not always possible?
Not
right?
necessarily.
No.
Not necessarily. I think you can tie up with other product services as well. For example, many yoga teachers sell yoga mats and yoga merchandise, which is something that they don't make, but they kind of, tie up with other brands or companies, and they do it. So it could be a complementary product also. Like, for example, if I'm a hip-hop dancer, I would pick up shoes, and I will collaborate with a brand of shoes maybe and say, okay, I'll make content and we can sell products together. So that's another way of making money if content creators was to think, because it's complementary. And then you can pick up services, like I given you an example of a dancer teaching dance.
But that's not scalable, is it?
Online, yes, it's scalable.
So
I give you this
teach
example.
Too many.
Yeah, I'll give you
So
this
it's not
example.
personalized.
No. I'll give you an example of one of my favorite choreographers. His name is Kiran, MJ Kiran. And he's from Bombay. So he continued making a lot of videos on, various popular songs, and he teaches dance. So a couple of his reels got viral and people wanted to learn. And then he kept announcing workshops that I'm doing this workshop both online and offline. And if you want to learn this choreography, come join me. And there are so many people. Like, I attended one of his workshops. His room was full,
Okay, like he does offline workshops.
Both. He does both online and offline. So I've attended, I did not attend an online one, but I keep seeing his updates and all. So he's monetizing that. So, and it is scalable because online doesn't have a limitation. A room can only probably accommodate 50, 60, 70 people, but online you can go up to thousands or lakhs also. So I clearly know that it has a lot of potential. Content creation is the way to go. No matter how big, small, medium you are as a brand or a personal brand, you need to do content creation. It's the need of the hour. And people are not doing it. Sorry guys, you're missing out.
Yeah.
Big time.
Can you explain that again? Why should every business create content? Or who should create content? Let's talk about that.
In today's time, everybody should create content. In my understanding, let's say even if you are a dentist, okay, and you might say, oh, I'm a doctor, I'm a dentist, why do I need to create a content? But what is it that will ensure that people are going to come back to you again and again? If you are in a business today, you need to add value because people are seeing content creation as much beyond entertainment now. So if, for example, you're a dentist and I see one of your videos and you're talking about how you may not even need braces and there are alternative ways, or how you may not even need a root canal treatment and there are alternative ways to work on it, and if you continue to do this ABCD, you will prevent all this. And I'm like, hey, this guy is coming from a genuine space. He's suggesting me not to get a surgery done, where other dentists are actually telling me to get a surgery done and spend money in that. But he's suggesting ways to even prevent before the cure. So I trust this person. So the next time I have to recommend a dentist, I will immediately pull out this video and share it with them. Because he built that trust, he built that credibility, and that is crucial. So that's where it plays in a very subtle way.
Building trust.
Building trust, building credibility.
Yeah, so everyone has to do content, especially if you're a business person, if you are a niche expert, right? Coach. Who else can we think of?
It's simple. If you want to reach out to people, you need to be present where people are. And people are online. People are on their screens every day. And if you are not on the screen, on their mobile, you will not be seen. So you will be lost sooner or later.
True. Yeah. Interesting. So yes, we are talking about the various ways content creators can monetize, right? One is brand deals. One is sell a product or service. Doesn't have to be your own. It could be somebody else's that you're promoting. You've also done a lot of courses which sell online, so you make passive income through that, right?
You make passive incomes from that. So if you pre-record a course, you can sell that to your distribution channel, to your audience. But I will say very important thing. Your intention needs to be to serve them, not to sell them. Because if you're just thinking of making a distribution channel or creating social media content and followings in order to just make money, it will not work out that well. You need to...
Why do you say that?
Because people sense it.
Subconsciously.
Your intention is what matters. Like, I always came with an intention of, if yoga transformed my life, imagine, the kind of transformation each and every one can experience. So I found so much of balance and growth and grounding with yoga. I wanted this, this whole experience for other people as well. I wanted other people also to feel the way I was feeling. So I was coming from a space of sharing कि बहुत फ़ायदे की चीज़ है, कर लो, please कर लो. So that was the intent and it's still the same. So I was not thinking कि I need to reach, 5,000 downloads or 10,000 people or this. That was never the idea. The idea was to ensure that somebody somewhere sitting there takes few deep breaths and realizes I am centered. I am feeling better. I am in a position to take a decision with a calm mind, and I'm responding, not reacting. So these are the things I wanted to, share. I wanted to give because I was receiving it. I wanted to give it further. And I don't know, selling is probably not the right word in my dictionary. I would say sharing and educating and, you know, empowering them is the right word. So if you have that as an intention, you will be able to do much better. You'll be able to serve your community better.
Do you feel value in pre-recorded courses or live courses?
Live, any day. You can have an element of pre-recorded. I think these days hybrid works best. You can have some things which is common that can go in the pre-recorded format, but people would still need your energy, your presence, your aura when it comes to their individual problems or individual concerns. For that, you need to be present for them. So I would recommend a hybrid.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so we figured out 3 ways. Are there any others?
If you're doing long format, so YouTube will pay you. That's given. And it also happens so that once you're in content creation, you will be approached by other brands and companies who wants your services. Okay? So here I am not selling a course. Here I'm not getting a brand deal. I'm not getting paid for the views. I'm not selling any service, but somebody might come and say, hey, we want your services for our own thing. Let's say a brand will approach you and say, why don't you take a session on nutrition for us, or why don't you take, if you're a nutritionist, for example, or if you're a doctor and it's the fitness health week or something in their organization or something.
Okay, so
they will call you. They'll pay you.
Like as a speaker.
As a speaker or as an educator, as an expert, or just to do what you're doing. So like my friend Neha, she's a nutritionist. Now she's curating menus for other big wellness hotels and restaurants and cafes abroad. So she's going to Dubai and creating a menu for them. Now this is intangible. You did not see this coming the day you start content creation. But because you are into a space of content creation, somebody thought, okay, like this person is the right person to get the service from. And here you're making money and working with them. So there are intangible benefits. Sometimes you don't even know. Like I never expected that Cult will call me to record a program for them. So they did call and I shot a series. Then I never expected BoldFit will call me before Yoga Day that we want to, share this free program with our audience. Whosoever buys a yoga mat from us, they get access to a yoga course. So I was like, that's a great idea. But they wanted a teacher to, put together that series. So you became the choice because they see your online presence, and you need to have online presence to be able to grab such opportunities.
What you said just reminded me, just a few days ago, I was telling somebody, once you start creating content, once you start putting yourself out there, you get more opportunities.
Absolutely.
Like many of the people that I want to invite to my podcast are people who are already creating content.
Correct.
So once you do that, you understand the way the person speaks, the way the person looks, the way the person expresses themselves on camera, right? But it's quite risky to take someone who doesn't put himself out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't know, I was doing some podcast for another lady. We were recording a podcast for her. And she invited someone who she thought was an expert and is an expert. However, the camera presence was not there. The pronunciation was not there. The comfort in expressing yourself was not there.
Because this is a different skill.
Yeah.
You may be an expert in your domain, in your subject matter. You are a subject matter expertise and you know your subject really well. But the whole game of just figuring out where the light is coming from, where do I need to face, how comfortable you are in front of camera. Many people get intimidated just by looking at the camera because they think that somebody is observing them, their behavior changes, and they are not able to figure out that, how to deal with it. And they are very intimidated with it and the ones who do content creation, they know that camera is an extension of who they are, that it's their friend, it's their alibi. It's somebody that you need to have a very strong relationship with. And once you get comfortable with it, you see the world through the camera. Because when I see a camera, I don't see a camera. I see this million people behind who are watching this. So this is a path, this is a door for me that opens up to so many more people. So when I'm talking to the camera, I'm not talking to the camera. I'm talking to those people who are in front of me. So this is a skill, and this is something that you can learn, and anybody can learn. So slowly and slowly, once you realize who I am, if you're true to yourself, if you're true to your being, you will know my problems are the same as theirs. My fears, my inhibitions are exactly same as theirs. And I don't have to show any, I don't have to pretend, I don't have to wear a mask, I don't have to show any other way. I am who I am. And you will see me as it is, because I know you are me and I am you. When you come to this point, it becomes very easy. But this does take practice and a lot of self-reflection.
That's true. I mean, just the other day I was recording a podcast for another gentleman. He invited this very senior government official, this lady who's got a lot of recognition, she's done a lot of things. But the conversation was just droning on, you know. And it was so boring, because intellectualism does not mean entertainment, or does not mean that you can speak well on camera or, you know, express yourself. So yeah, totally agree. I think more people need to learn some camera skills.
They should.
Presentation
They
skills.
should.
Yeah.
They should. I was fortunate because I had a acting career, and you know, I learned voice modulation, projection, you know, the concept of third wall and everything. That really helps when you're doing content creation. Those are all fundamentals that comes from acting. And I've been on stage, I've been a performer, so this was not my fear, but I know so many of them who speak to us regularly and say, we have a fear of camera, we don't know. It's like, that's okay, it will take time, but you can work upon it.
Tell me something. Do you think that this, what we are talking about, camera presence, presentation skills, can be taught?
Yes.
And if so, how long, how many hours of instruction? I'm just exploring. Maybe we should do a course on this.
Many people are actually doing a course on it.
Yeah?
Yeah. I've met teams who actually teach people how to be a content creator. And there are proper courses on it. They have pre-recorded everything. They've given them instructions, like information about scripting, shooting, editing, everything. And because I'm always intrigued, I keep searching for more and more. So I came across a lot of courses like that as well. And they exist. And they're useful. But at the end of the day, once you get the information, it's on you that you have to practice. Yeah. Nobody's going to give you a danda just because you've purchased a course or signed up for a
Maybe
course.
we should do a course that gives them danda.
Yeah, very important. I wish I can do this for yoga first to begin with. I'm to like, I know, because consistency is the biggest thing. No matter what you want to do in your life, irrespective of what goal you have in your life, consistency is the answer. So if you are not being consistent in your health, in your career, in your wealth, in your relationships, nothing is going to work out. So it will require consistency, and so does this skill of being in front of camera. So if you are a person who commits to, you know, finishing what you have started, and you commit to being consistent, irrespective of how you feel, then you will learn anything. Like Terence was also saying, do what you need to do, not what you want to do, and do it with love.
I really took that.
I took that
because it
myself.
was
It's like,
huge.
yeah, I was in my head thinking like, yes, I'm supposed to do this with all my love, and not given to my, you know, कि ठीक है आज मैं beach होके आती हूँ. No. If I'm supposed to finish a task on a particular day, this is the need, I'm going to stick to that. So that's where the learning from the best comes in from.
So true, so true.
And be consistent.
Well, Shiny, before we end, tell us, what are your plans? I mean, now you've gone through a couple of years of this, right? You've seen what works, what doesn't work. You've gone for business coaching. You've started a podcast now, right? You have quite a lot of following on your personal Instagram, even before that. What's the path ahead? Where are you going now?
I'm going where divine is taking me. Very simply put, you must have realized listening to the entire story, I did not choose any of this. dancing, yes, but acting was not part of my plan.
Yoga wasn't.
Yoga was not part
Yeah.
of my plan. Podcast was not part of my plan. Peanut was not part of my plan. None of it was part of my plan. And every single day I wake up and realize, hey, you have a much better plan than I have for myself. So thank you so much, because I think he has a lot of faith in me, and I don't want to put him down. So I simply surrender now. I say, you lead, I'll follow.
I really love that, before the podcast you prayed.
Yeah.
And that was beautiful. I like that. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Shiny, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
everything.
Ryan.
And this was a totally fluke podcast. It was not meant to be, but it
Like
happened.
I said, it was divine's plan, not our plan.
Yes.
If things would not happen the way they had happened, this would not have
Yeah.
happened.
Absolutely.
So thank you, divine.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.